All right, we are live, guys. In-depth talk, discussion about in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, which is one of my favorites in this franchise. If you guys know me, I only like the first three films in the franchise. I think they're the best. Anything beyond three gets more comedic after that. But I printed this off on the internet. Um, and this is from Wikipedia. And there's one thing you do got to be very careful about is with Wikipedia is that is that picking up? Is that with Wikipedia, anybody can put anything on there. I mean, we've seen that happen with some stuff that was written about Adrian King from Friday the 13th on there. Some false information about bands and whatnot. And I'm still trying to get I'm still trying to get used to the camera angle because this hand here is actually going in this direction. So when I'm moving, I got to be careful because it's like this one is going to go in that direction, but it's actually going this way, so it is what it is. So I printed out this whole thing with Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. It gives you synopsis of the film. So, we can go ahead and Dream Warriors is a 1987 American fantasy slasher film directed by Chuck Russell in his feature directorial debut. The story was developed by Wes Craven and Bruce Wagner and is the third installment in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise and stars Heather Langenkamp, Patricia Arquette, Larry Fishburne, of course, Lawrence Fishburne, if you guys know who that is. He's very famous. Priscilla Pointer, who had just recently passed away at the age of 100 years old. Craig Wasson and Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, Nancy Thompson, now a psychiatrist, and Kristen Parker, a patient who can bring others into her dreams, team up with other kids to launch a daring rescue into a dreamland and save a child from Freddy Krueger, which basically is Joey, who they're saving. Dream Warriors was theatrically released on February 27th, 1987. Now, that's kind of funny because I believe it's February 26th or February 27th of next year. Scream 7 comes out. Very, very, very interesting. And grossed $44.8 million domestically on a budget of over $4 million. It received mostly positive reviews from critics and is considered by many to be one of the best films in the franchise. It is one of the best, and I think everybody that has that's a fan of horror films, they're probably going to go ahead and say, besides the first film, that the sequel to Elm Street, their favorite one is Dream Warriors here. I like 2. I like 3, 2 and 3. They're my favorite 2 that came after the original. The film was preceded by A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, 1985, and followed by A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master in 1988, which I don't even watch. So, screenplay by Wes Craven, Bruce Wagner, Frank Darabont, Chuck Russell, story by Wes Craven, Bruce Wagner. It stars Heather Langenkamp, Patricia Arquette, Larry Fishburne. We're gonna get to the good stuff. I'm just going off by the cast. Priscilla Pointer, Craig Wasson, John Saxon, Dick Cavett, Zaza Gabor, Robert Englund. Cinematographer was Roy H. Wagner. Edited by Terry Stokes, Chuck Wayas. Music by Angelo. I know I'm going to butcher this last name. I think it's an Italian name. Angelo Badalamenti. Production companies New Line Cinema, Heron Communications, Smart Egg Productions. Distributed by New Line Cinema. Release date February 27th, 1987 in the United States. 96 minutes. Budget was 4.3 to 4.6 million. Box office 44.8 million. So we do get the plot. We won't read about the plot here. But I have not seen this movie in a long time. I recently just watched it last week for the very first time in years, and I got to tell you, I really enjoyed it, even back when I was a kid. So production, development. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read all this, pretty much a lot of it. So I do got a nice cold bottle of water here, so I'm going to take a sip of this. We're going to get started. There are some things I didn't know about this film. And I don't know how true a lot of this is because it's on Wikipedia. But production development. Following the critical failure of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy's Revenge, which is my favorite, New Line Cinema was unsure if it would continue with the series. Wes Craven, who wrote and directed the original A Nightmare on Elm Street, did not participate in the second film. He had not wanted the original to evolve into a franchise, which I think I might have heard that before. He wanted it to just be a one and done thing, which I can understand. But due to immense dissatisfaction with Freddy's Revenge, Craven signed on to co-write the screenplay for the third film with the intention that it would end the series. Now, I'm going to stop right there. To me, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise ended with Dream Warriors. And the reason why I'm saying that, it was the return of Heather Langenkamp as Nancy and John Saxon as Donald Thompson. This is overdue. If you've never seen this movie, I'm going to spoil it for you right now. Both Nancy and Donald die in this film. Nancy sacrifices herself to save the kids. I mean, particularly Freddy almost had Kristen in the third and final act, but she sacrificed herself, and it was before Freddy almost got to Kristen. Freddie tricked Nancy into being Donald Thompson, her father, and he guts her, I think at least a couple of times with the claws into the gut area and stuff. But she sacrificed herself. So I love the way it ended. I love how Freddie was defeated. I don't watch anything past Dream Warriors because I do not like anything after that because it got comical more and more after that. And Freddy versus, or not Freddy versus, but Freddy's Dead was a full-blown comedy. But yeah, to me, Elm Street should have been just a trilogy. But I treated it as a trilogy because I only enjoyed the first three films. So let's get back to this really quick here. Sometimes when you talk, you forget your place when you read. However, the success of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors prompted a continuation of the series. Craven himself would be unavailable for directing as he was tied up with filming Deadly Friend around that same time. I've never seen Deadly Friend. I believe it was recently released on 4K, like last year or something. Let's see, I'm gonna tone down the brightness of this light. Okay, now it's a little bit better. It's a little better. Craven's first concept for the film was to have Freddy Krueger invade the real world. And this is something I did not know, if it's even true, which it could be. Like I said, you don't know what's true on Wikipedia or not, but I'm pretty sure the majority of this stuff is true. Krueger would haunt the actors filming a new Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. New Line Cinema rejected the mathematical idea, but years later, Craven's concept was brought to the screen in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Before the script was finalized in 1986, John Saxon and Robert Englund wrote their own scripts for a third Nightmare film. In Saxon's script, a prequel story called How the Nightmare on Elm Street all began. Freddy is ultimately innocent, or at least set up for the murders by the main culprits, Charles Manson and the Manson family. Now that's a little weird. I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm glad we got the version of Dream Warriors that we got. Thank goodness for that, man. Woo! Freddy is forced by a mob of angry parents to confess to the crimes, which enrages them further. After lynching Freddy, he comes back to avenge his wrongful death by targeting the mob's children. In Englund's treatment, Freddy's Funhouse, the protagonist is Tina Gray. Tina Gray's older sister, who was away at college when Tina was murdered, and returns to Springwood to investigate how she died. Freddy had claimed the 1420 Elm Street house for his own in the dream world. setting up booby traps like Nancy Thompson had done against him. Remember, that was in the first film, guys. According to England, after the script had been unused for years, part of it was used in No More Mr. Nice Guy, the plot episode for Freddy's Nightmares, which I've never seen the Freddy Nightmare series. I watched some of it. Andrew, did you watch documentary Never Sleep Again? No, I didn't. If I was able to own it, I would just watch it up until Dream Warriors. I'm not a big, like I was saying earlier in the video, like I was saying earlier here, I'm not a fan of anything that came after Dream Warriors. It just got more comical as it went on, and it just, just something about it. And I like the fact the way Dream Warriors ended. It was, Nancy sacrifices herself. Donald Thompson, ends up dying. The way Freddy was defeated in that film was a perfect way to end it. I don't know why the hell they would go on. I think if you stop at Dream Warriors, you can easily go right into New Nightmare from this. That I'm just saying. Okay, let's see. Let's continue on. I know I got the bright light times. I gotta be able to see, guys, when I read. Writing. Here we go. This is gonna be interesting, especially when we get to the casting stuff here. Wes Craven has said about the franchise, guidance by he and Bruce Wagner, that we decided that it could no longer be one person fighting Freddy. It had to be a group because the souls of Freddy's victims have made Freddy stronger. He also called Nancy or Heather Langenkamp to ask her if he may include her character Nancy in the script, which she agreed to, which I thought was really cool because in the movie, in the one scene, Nancy goes ahead and says, he's never been this strong, and he reveals the souls of the children. So, yeah, it became a big cash cow because he was the first slasher, basically made he was the first slasher pretty much out of the big three, because Michael and Jason never talked. He had personality. That's why he became a huge icon. They were able to do things with him like that they couldn't do with Michael or Jason, or even Leatherface for this instance. Let me see where was I at. In interviews with cast and crew in the DVD extras, it is revealed that the original idea for the film centered around the kids separately traveling to a specific location to die by suicide. Well, that's crazy. Later, it would be discovered that the common link between the youths was that they dreamed of Freddy Krueger since suicide was a taboo social issue. The storyline was abandoned. Some aspects of the idea remained in the film. Well, it's a lot of talking, man. I gotta get another drink here. This is some really cool stuff. Speaking of Dream Wars, I ordered my 24 by 36 inch Dream Wars poster, hopefully for this November, for Heather Langenkamp to sign when I meet her. I got the frame over here, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. In Craven and Wagner's original script, the characters were somewhat different from what was eventually filmed. Nancy was neither a dream expert nor a mental health professional. Kristen, named Kristen in the script, only stayed in the institution briefly. She had a father, and her mother, Elaine, was named Alice. Neil's last name was Guinness instead of his character, much younger. Dr. Elizabeth Sims' last name was Madalena. Tyron White, Mary and Madalena's, that's pretty interesting. Tyron White was African. Wow, that's interesting. Tyron White, Jennifer Rubin's character, was African American. Joey Crucial was the one who built the model of the house and had trouble getting around, although he did not use a wheelchair. It's interesting, man. And Philip Anderson was a 13-year-old. That's nutty, man. Well, Philip Anderson, the walk, the guy that makes those puppets, supposed to be 13 years old. What the hell? Will Stanton's name was originally Laredo. He had long hair, did not use a wheelchair, and was the one who made the clay puppets. Okay, wow, that's pretty interesting. Talking about Iron Hayden's character. This script also described their ranch house where Kruger was born, and that is the house that shows up in the kids' dreams rather than the Elm Street house. Wow, that's interesting. Wes Craven specifies let me get back to this, man. Hold on. Wes Craven specifies the house in his original script to be an architectural portrait of Freddy's dreamscape. It is virtually a limitless world of the human psychic in all of its dimensions. You can enter this other world through the house of dreams or madness or hallucinations or special psychic states that various people have. Man, this is interesting. On the contrary to the film, Donald Thompson knew from the start that Kruger was real and still alive. Kruger was missing, and Nancy wanted to find him. When she finds him, Nancy learns that Kruger is obsessed with finding the house where he was born so he could burn it down. In the original script, there is a romance between Nancy and Neil, and they have sex. Oh, okay. There are scenes and lines that are reminiscent of the first film. There is no mention that Kruger's mother, Amanda, had been a nun, or that Freddy was born of rape. Both Joey and Roland Kincaid are killed. They were supposed to be killed in this one, but they were killed in the next one. That's interesting. Both Joey and Kincaid would have been killed in Dream Warriors instead of Dream Master. The deaths in the script were more grotesque. Kruger was not as talkative, and he was more vulgar. Freddy is killed by Nancy by using his own glove, not by holy water, and she sees through his shape-shifting trick, even though she still dies. In the Never Sleep Again Elm Street documentary, director Chuck Russell states that Craven's original script was darker and more profane, and Rachel Talalay thought that the script seemed like a $20 million script. Discussing the more humorous elements in the film, Russell said, "I looked at what series creator Wes Craven did and said, this is absolutely great and terrifying, but I felt that by the time I came along on 3, the way to go was to make the whole idea of dreams and nightmares into a carnival and go through into the dreams and make Freddy Krueger more outrageous and more of an element of dark humor that worked, and the series went in that direction from then on." Probably, I liked how they blend. I liked how they blend the comedy and the darkness of Dream Warriors. It was a perfect blend. But when you get to 4, 5, Freddy's dead, it just got really, really bad with the comedy and stuff. Plus, I didn't really care much for any of the characters either after 3. One of the most memorable scenes in the film is the sequence that takes place in the junkyard during the film's climax. The junkyard sequence and the set itself were the product of art director Mick Strawn, who also handled some of the film's special effects sequences and became production designer on the sequel. The sequence was so popular that it appeared again in a Nightmare on Elm Street 4's remaster. The junkyard sequence was filmed in Tacoma, California for both films. It's pretty cool. Now we're going to get to the casting here, and this is what's going to get really, really interesting. I only touched up on a little bit of it off screen last week when I printed it out. Give me that cold one. I got a warm one here. This is going to be really, really interesting with this casting business here with DreamWires, and I'm going to tell you why. Because we got two future stars that I guess auditioned for roles in DreamWires. Casting: Lisa Wilcox and Leslie Dean. Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare 4 and 5, who was Alice, the only heroine to survive two of Freddy's reigns of terror, and Leslie Dean, who was, I believe, Tracy in Freddy's Dead. So Lisa Wilcox and Leslie Dean, who would representantly be cast as Alice Johnson and Tracy Swan in later installments, have both reportedly to have auditioned for roles in DreamWires previously. Oh, that would have been cool to see Lisa Wilcox in DreamWires. That would have been interesting. Wondering what roles they would have had. Patricia Arquette was nearly recast early in the production, but Chuck Russell intervened and convinced the producers to allow her to stay. According to producer Sarah Rich, the role that the producers spent the most time interviewing and auditioning for was Marcy Stacy Alden, the sexy nurse who seemingly seduced Joey in his dream, but turns out to be Freddy. Nurse Marcy, while seducing Joey, was originally supposed to turn into a she Freddy. And I did see pictures online of the she Freddy, of what she looked like in the prosthetic sort of face. It looked pretty cool, you know. With Alden wearing Freddy's mask, Roy H. Wagner had second thoughts about this after seeing how she Freddy looked in practice, stating that Freddy with breasts, it was too off kilter. The concept of she Freddy was substituted, having the nurse shoot personnel tongues at Joey, or to trap him and be switched with England's Freddy. In the shooting script, Sally Kellerman was supposed to appear as Dick Cabot's talk show, but Cabot allegedly handpicked Zsa Zsa Gabor personally after being given the opportunity to choose who he thought should appear in his show and be slaughtered by Freddy. According to Robert Englund, all of her reactions and dialogue referring to Zsa Zsa Gabor were completely improvised. And it's quoted right here. Miss Gabor, who would be asked to appear in a movie again, apparently did not bother to do any research on the Nightmare. Agent told her, "I have a job for you." And all she said was, "Great. Vent time, up." That's in her language. She's Hungarian, guys. So not realizing that she was about to throw down with a burnt to a crisp serial killer during the fake talk show, where she's interviewed by Dick Cabot. All her reactions seen on film were 100% genuine. She didn't know who the fuck Freddy was, so when I jumped out, she had a mild freak out. So she didn't even know that this was going to happen. So that's pretty cool. Now we're going to get into the filming aspect of it here. Well, let's talk about the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 DreamWires soundtrack. It's in a little box here. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 DreamWires original motion picture soundtrack. Film score by Angelo Badalamenti. Released January 1st, 1987. Film score genre. Length 32 minutes and 2 seconds. Label Paris Sarabad Bandy, producer, New Line Cinema. So, filming. The storyboards for the shooting was supplied by Pete Von Scholey. Russell originally hired a cinematographer whom line producer Richard Tolley perceived, and Richard Tolley directed Freddy's Dead. Perceived to be Eastern European. Tolley had the cinematographer fired after he had insulted Penelope Sudrow and replaced him with Roy H. Wagner. The Royce Hall building on the University of California, Los Angeles campus was used for the exteriors of Westing Hills Psychiatric Hospital, while St. Bernardin Catholic Church was used for the church scenes. The scenes in Freddy's boiler room were filmed at a converted warehouse across the street from Los Angeles County Jail. Mark Shustrom, who was also doing work on the set of Evil Dead 2, possibly smuggled a Freddy glove used in Dreamwares and used it as a background prop for one day, explaining why the glove appeared in that film released the same year. The junkyard set in this, the junkyard set is the only set used in more than one film, 3 and 4. The set was built and filmed at the old Los Angeles City dump. The landfill closed on October 31st, 2013. Wow, that's pretty interesting. Special effects, man. Special effects. It's all about the special effects of this film. Hey, Face. We're just going over stuff over here with Wikipedia, which here on Wikipedia because we don't know a lot of the stuff is actually true or not. Things with Nightmare 3 Dream Warriors. Going into special effects stuff right now, so if you want to stick around, man, stick around. The special effects were created by a team led by Peter Chesney and include Kevin Yeager and Mark Shustrom for the iconic death scene for Jennifer Caulfield's character, where her body is hoisted into the air. Shustrom created a dummy of Penelope Sudrow with fully flexible limbs out of fiberglass and then put a matching wig on the dummy. The team built 5 PBs, each different functions, with one being equipped with rubber membrane, which a dummy of Freddy's head pushed up through, after which substituted the dummy with Robert Englund. Another was equipped with the mental arms, which include Freddy's finger blades and vacuum tubes from real televisions. The line "Welcome to Prime Time, bitch" was an ad-lib by Robert Englund for Taryn's death scene. The team had originally tried for the effect here, where her head explodes after being injected with drugs, but could not make this effect work. Instead, they put appliances on Jennifer Rubin's body to show the withering effects of the injection. The skeletal version of the girl that Kristen is holding, created by Shustrom, but turned out to be too good for its purpose. Russell was so unnerved by its appearance that he did not dare to put it in the film, but had it replaced by a similar decayed skeleton. Shustrom went to the Simon Westfall Museum for inspiration, looking at photographs of burnt children from the Auschwitz concentration camp and needed 10 weeks to complete the original dummy, and its replacement was created within hours at Russell's insistence. Okay. Post-production. Heather Langenkamp and co-star Craig Wasson refer to a deleted scene in which they kissed, with Wasson stating that no, we didn't have sex, but there was this one real hot kiss that just about melted the camera lenses. Too bad they cut it. Oh, that would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. That would have been great just to see something like that. Imagine what they could have done, like if they never would have cut these films. But I'm happy with the version of Dream Warriors that we got. Music, and we're going to get to the music, and we're thinking Dream Warriors by Dokken, and it does say it right here. The theme song, Dream Warriors, was written and performed by the American heavy metal band Dokken, and later included on their album Back for the Attack. The single was a success, and a decision was made to include heavy metal songs in the soundtrack for the sequels. The band's manager, Cliff Bernstein, was acquainted with Wes Craven and was able to get a copy of the film script as reference. For the lyrics, Robert Englund as Freddie then helped providing unique footage with the band for the music video. Clips of Patricia Arquette as Christian Parker were also used, with some notable changes such as her model housing being built with Dokken fanzines instead of paper mache. The opening sequence of the original VHS release of the film has a hard rock instrumental version of the Joe Lamont song Quiet Cool. The DVD instead has the Into the Fire by Dokken, which is in the original theatrical release. That's pretty cool right there. In Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors was scored by David Lynch's frequent collaborator and friend Angelo Badalamenti and released around 3 weeks prior to the film's theatrical release. The film score was re-released alongside all of the other soundtracks in the franchise in 2017 on the label Death Waltz Recording Company as a box set called A Nightmare on Elm Street Box of Souls. Interesting. Marketing. New Line Cinema's distributing partner, Media Home Entertainment, recorded a promo reel with Robert Englund as Freddie, advertising the VHS release of the film, primarily to video rental shop and other vendors, including a promised chance to one winner to appear in the sequel, in Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Dream Master. I'm just going through all of this stuff, guys. Man, it's cool stuff here. Reception. Box office. The film was released theatrically in the United States by New Line Cinema in February of 1987. It was the first film to open nationally, opening in 1,340 theaters and debuting at a number one with a weekend gross of $8.9 million, a record for an independent film at that time. It made $44,739,222 at the domestic box office, making it both the highest grossing film for the studio that year and the 24th highest grossing film of 1987. And it is the third highest grossing film of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise after Freddy vs. Jason and A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 The Dream Master. In the Australian state of Queensland, the movie was banned by the Bishop Peters government because of its drug references, especially the scene where Freddy's gloves become a row of syringes and he injects Taryn with the overdose. In 1990, the newly elected Goss government abolished the Queensland Film Board review, and the film became available through normal market channels. The Australian public at that time thought the ban was absurd as the film was not very graphic. Home media. We're getting in home media. Got to get that home media. The film was released on May 27, by Media Home Entertainment on VHS, and again in 1990 in LP mode, distributed by Video Treasures. Another LP mode version was released in Canada in 1989 by HGB Video Productions, Inc. In 1999, New Line Home Video released a 7-tape box set, which I do have. It's in the background back here. I'll be showing that off in a video. It's one of a kind. It's rare. It's got a little bit of damage on it, but I mean, it's still good. Critical response. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 68% based on 62 reviews, with an average rating of 5.8 to 10. The site's critics' consensus ratings: A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors offers an imaginative and surprisingly satisfying rebound for a franchise already started to come back to sequels. Some of these words, man, look very tricky. Metric, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 49 out of 100 based on 11 critics indicating mixed or average reviews. Variety wrote that Russell's poor direction makes the film intended and unintended humor difficult to differentiate. Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert, guys. Here we go. Chicago Sun-Times rated it 1.5 out of 4 stars. He liked the production values, but said that it never generated any sympathy for its characters. Janet Maslin of the New York Times wrote, the film's dream sequences are ingenious, and they feature some remarkable nightmare images and special effects. Kim Newman wrote in Empire that the film delivers amazing scenes in spades, bringing to life the sort of bizarre images which used to be found only on a comic book covers, but believed that Lion Camp was miscast. Here, as the world's only teenage psychiatrist, and a white streak in her hair doesn't help her get away with it. Patrick J. Mullen of Media called the film a perfect companion piece to the first film and feels like it completes Nancy's story in a satisfying way, which is great. And to me, like I said again, I think this would have been a perfect trilogy, and I'll always treat this as a trilogy because, again, I don't watch anything after Dream Warriors. I just am not a fan of anything after part 3. Accolades: 1989 Saturn Awards, Best Horror Film nomination, Best Makeup nomination, Best Supporting Actor Robert Englund nomination, Fantasporto Awards 1988, International Fantasy Film Award, Best Film Chuck Russell nomination, Critics Awards Special Mention Chuck Russell won. Okay. So we got a little bit more here. Talk about the legacy. We're going to talk about the legacy now. The film. In the franchise, Westing Hills Psychiatric Hospital and the dream suppressant drug Hypnocil, introduced in Dream Warriors, reappear in Freddy vs. Jason, where it is shown that prolonged use of the drug results in irreversible coma. In the comics, Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, the Nightmare Warriors, and the drug is referenced when Maggie Barrows taunts Dr. Neil Gordon for being a Hypnocil junkie, and that if he hadn't been, he would have seen her betrayal and corruption by her demonic father coming. The drug appears in the film Stitches, where the main character, Tommy, takes a drug by that name to suppress visions of the undead killer clown, Stitches. Josh Boone, co-writer and director of the superhero film The New Mutants. About the Marvel Comics superhero team, New Mutants has cited Dream Warriors as one of their major influences of the film, which is pretty cool. And I did see that movie too, New Mutants, which has been described as a supernatural horror film. An early screenplay by Michael Almereyda for that became Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare in 1991, involved bringing back members of the Dream Warriors as a form of dream police to help Jacob Johnson to fight Freddy. In Friday the 13th, the game from the Friday the 13th franchise, the Tommy tapes hints at Tommy Jarvis being sent to Westing Hills Psychiatric Hospital to be cared for by Dr. Neil Gordon. Roy H. Wagner recreated scenes from the film with Kristen and the little girl from her dreams in 2019 while using only an iPhone 11 Pro for the production. Literature. The film was spoofed by Mad Magazine in October 1987, a joint novelization of the first three films, The Nightmares on Elm Street Parts 1, 2, 3. The continuing story was released in 1987, written by Jeff Cooper. In the Dream Warriors chapter, the original Craven and Wagner version of the Nightmare 3 script is adapted rather than the Russell and Frank Darabont rewrite. As such, the book version of the story is notable differently from the finished film. Now, I'm going to go back to something about the Michael Almadeira for Freddy's Dead involved bringing back the Dream Warriors. I know a fan had asked Jennifer Rubin at a convention about their Q&A panel about that, and she's never heard of that. But it's kind of cool that we do get to hear that. That would have been interesting to see them come back for Freddy's Dead, the Dream Warriors. So now we got comics. Many characters from the Dream Warriors film appear in Andy Megalon's 1991 comic book story, Nightmares on Elm Street, which continue the Dream trilogy and brings back most of the characters from Dream Warriors, with the Dream Warriors group stands Kristen appearing in the last two issues of the series. In the storyline, Kristen's psychic powers and her wish of putting Nancy into a beautiful dream allowed Nancy's soul to ascend to the positive side of the dream world, wherein her soul is free and able to oppose Freddy. Aside from Nancy and the Dream Warriors group, Nancy's father, Donald, and Dr. Sims and Dr. Neil Gordon also appear, and Amanda Kruger is mentioned. In the 2009 comic book series Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, The Nightmare Warriors, Dr. Neil Gordon plays a major role, while Nancy, Amanda Kruger, and the Dream Warriors group makes cameos appearances after Jacob Johnson releases some of the spirits of Freddy Krueger's victims to help in defeating Freddy. There have been two video games, and I've only played one of them. I did watch the other one years ago on the internet, but we're going to get ready to talk about that next. To this Wikipedia form here. The video games. The two video games released for the franchise, the Commodore 64 1989 and the NES option 1990, are independently based primarily on the Dream Warriors concept, characters, and film. The C64 game, PC game, allows the player to play as one of the Dream Warriors characters, including Nancy, who is unique in the game as a dream power of freezing enemies. The NES game centers around collecting Freddy's scattered bones to destroy them, burying them in the original game concept, and Dream Warrior powers can be acquired through collecting power-ups. Merchandise. Fright Rags. Fright Rags has released several limited edition Dream Warriors themed clothing, including one design that is a passion of the cover of the first 1963 issue of Uncanny X-Men, substituting the X-Men with the Dream Warriors and Magneto with Freddy Krueger. They have also released a print inspired by their own earlier work on the Warriors, 1979 design. Mondo created a printing of MondoCon 2016 based on the 1428 Elm Street house from the film. NECA released an adaptable 7-inch Freddy Krueger figure from the film in 2016, and other 18-inch figure in 2017 set, including Elaine Parker's severed head and a tuxedo Freddy, and of Kristen being devoured by the Freddy snake, were released as part of a cinematic affair series. A sleeping pill named Dreamwear has been released, with one function being advertised as a battle sleepiness, and it promises the user to win back your dreams. A replica of Nancy Thompson's personal Hypnosil bottle from the film is one of the items released in the January 2018 BAM horror box. So it's a lot to take in. I really enjoyed this film. I got to tell you, if you guys get a chance to see it back in replay, I read everything from this Wikipedia printout that I printed out last week. So that's a lot. I have not played the other Nightmare on Elm Street game from the Commodore 64. Did see it. You get to play as the Dream Warriors. You do get to play as Nancy Thompson. The only game I played was the one. It's the actual NES version, where you didn't really play with anybody from the game, but you're taking on Freddy and stuff like that. So, I really enjoyed Dream Warriors. To be honest, I love Part 2. Part 2 is by far my favorite sequel. So if I had to go in order with the first three, just the first three, because again, I don't like anything beyond 3, but I had to rank them in order. It would be 1, 2, and 3, all in that order. So, yeah. But if I had to say who has the better visual effects between the three, I would say Dream Warriors has the better visual effects. Every time you go ahead and see the whole thing with the Philip Death, with him being the puppet and stuff, I thought that was very, very creative. That was another one. I mean, they really upped it in this one. And, I did not know that Lisa Wilcox and Leslie Dean, everybody knows that Lisa Wilcox was Alice Johnson and Leslie Dean was Tracy in Freddy's Dead, that they auditioned for roles in Dream Warriors. That would have been interesting seeing Lisa Wilcox and Leslie Dean in Dream Warriors. Just kind of curious of what characters that they were going to play. But yeah, I mean, it's fun, man. I mean, like I said, I love, I have not seen Dream Warriors in years. I stated it earlier on in this live stream here, but actually watching it, it's great. Like, the one scene that I really like, that really gets me goosebumps, is when Nancy convinces Neil to talk to the kids, tell the kids who's after them, because they're all dreaming, they're all having nightmares of the same individual, which is Freddy Krueger. And right when she says, I know, right when Neil says, she's got something to tell you, I know who's trying to kill you. And, Kincaid says, please don't try to humor us. We're not in the mood. And Nancy starts by saying he wears a dirty brown hat, and the look on Kincaid's face was just shocking. He's horribly burned. He wears, I think it was an ugly sweater, and he has razor knives for fingers on one hand or something like that. And you can tell the fear in Taryn's voice, big time. So who is he? And right when right after she explains he wears a dirty brown hat, the look on Kincaid's face is when, like, it's right when the music starts hitting, that eerie music. That's what I like. That's good stuff, man. That really is some good stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite scenes in the film. I would say my other favorite scene is when Nancy comes in, and it's right when Kristen's getting admitted. She's just going crazy because they're trying to sedate her. And right when Kristen is doing that rhyme, that, they do 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, or 9, 10. And then, Nancy finishes it and then comes in there and, removes the scalpel and out of Kristen's hand, and Kristen hugs her. She hugs Kristen and stuff like that. That was really, really well done. But yeah, I mean, they don't make horror movies like they used to. I mean, I'm a big Scream fan myself, but when you're saying that the main character, like Sidney Prescott, can never die, then what is the point of keep going on and on and on? But Going back to Nightmare on Elm Street, I think this franchise is unique for one thing only. You have Nancy Thompson. She was the heroine in the first one, and she was also pretty much the heroine in in Dream Warriors here. But she sacrificed herself. She ends up dying, right? Okay. We have Kristen, who's also the heroine. Kincaid and Joey as well. But I was so hoping that Kristen would be the new final girl going forward, but they killed her off. The only one that survived Freddy, and I mentioned it earlier on, the only one that survived Freddy twice is Alice. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, it's that's one thing that this franchise is very unique with is with the creative kills, the heroines, the surviving heroines seem to get killed off, except for Alice. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got, guys. I mean, what else, you know? But, you know, without further ado, I'll see you guys back in the next one. And I'm trying to think of what I'm going to talk about next for a live stream for next weekend. I'm not really sure. But I know after my Halloween reviews, we're going to be going into Scream territory. We're going to be reviewing all 6 Scream films. Of course, we can't review the 7th one because it hasn't come out yet. So, but be on the lookout for that. And I'll see you guys back in the next one. Take care. And remember to go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe. Until then, see you later.